Hey, welcome. It's another episode of Custom Action Figure News. Surprise, it's the Tamer opening tonight. Chad is busy. He's definitely has some news that we'll definitely let him share later. But the good news is the podcast is going to continue. Um, Chad Lucas Clones is going to show up on a periodic basis, but definitely want to wish him a hearty congratulations to many of you who know his news already, but I don't want to steal his thunder, so I'll wait and let him share that with you later. But let's just say his time is definitely going to be a bit more limited, but we want to wish him the best. And on that note, I was able to rope a reoccurring guest on Custom Action Figure News and a site reporter for the shipyards, Dan the Spectre Kosa, who let me twist his arm, and he's going to fill in co-hosting duties. So welcome, Dan, and thanks for letting me twist your arm.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm always happy to help out the yards. You know that.
As you can see, Dan's background is definitely a lot nicer than mine right now. That's one awesome room. We'll have to do a podcast where we just let him wave his webcam in front of all that cool stuff. Uh, but for now, I do have a few announcements, so I'd like to go ahead and try to get into them real quick. See if I can get the screen share work. I'll be toggling back and forth. First thing I would like to talk about is the latest 6-inch custom contest that we just finished up last week here at Imperial Shipyards, and just had some really cool custom 6-inch work. I just want to go down through a few. Here is one from the Clone Head, just a custom 6-inch Phase 1 Commander Cody, and just fantastic. Really awesome paint work and just some really good customizing by old Clint. Definitely a good friend. And another cool one, and Dan, I don't know if you had a chance to see this one yet. Have you seen this 6-inch Force Unleashed Shock T from from TS Hobbies? Did you see that one?
Yes, I did. That's actually really nice. I was going to comment on the paintwork and the sculpting on that. He did a great job.
Oh, I mean, just phenomenal. And like I said, I'm just Hasbro, if you are listening right now, I know it's legendary, but you would not be able to keep this one in stock. And I don't know if see if I can expand the picture a little bit if my computer will. Yeah, it'll make it go a little bigger there. Just gorgeous paintwork, and he even makes his own custom display stands. We'll definitely be featuring some of that sometime. But just great work, TS Hobbies. Tim just did a great job on that one. See if I can scroll down to another one real quick. Dan, you'll have to keep me in check. I don't want to make the announcements go too long. Here's just a great custom Snuva. You remember him from
Oh yeah, Shadows of the Empire.
Shadows of the Empire? Little Snuva, little Chewbacca dressed up as a bounty hunter. Just Darth Streams. Bill just did an awesome job on him. But just some really cool 6-inch work. There's some more work in progress. But anyway, you can look through that at your convenience, and there's going to be a voting thread up soon. So
I
have
have to
fun with
say,
that.
the amount of customs that were put in on this 6-inch challenge was great, considering you're working with parts that are less than
Right.
2 years old. That's
Yeah.
a lot of work. A lot of people are already buying stuff to use for fodder and to customize with.
Well, it
That's
was
gotta make Hasbro happy.
Oh, no. Well, what's interesting is, and you're aware of some of that discussion already, Dan, but we had a number of our guests, some really great customers. I'm not going 6 inch. I'm straight 3 3/4 person, but some of those same folks are just really turning out some top-notch stuff. So, I just really am loving this 6-inch work. All right, let me move on. Here's our buddy Frank Diorio from the dioramaworkshop.com, who had an announcement last week that he is going to be at Celebration 7 doing Bespin Cloud City this time for his diorama workshop, and he needs some action figures. The big three are Bespin Guards, Ugnaughts, and Cloud Car Pilots, and he has a link that you can look, and if you have any of those types of, Bespin Cloud City type toys to donate, because basically they'll spend the whole Celebration 7, everyone, children will be building these things up, just making a huge diorama. He's going to be right beside the Hasbro folks this time. And so this thing is going to be built up right beside the Hasbro folks, and it's. I went to it at Celebration 5, and I remember it being one of the coolest things. And then what he does at the end is he breaks all of it apart, and he gives all of the toys away to the kids and the pieces, and it's just a really cool time. If you're going to Celebration 7, you definitely have to check it out. But if you would just like to donate some things, you can send. There's an address, and he needs that stuff by April 10th. If you would like to donate monetarily, he's got a PayPal donation email up there. And if you're coming even to Celebration 7 and have some things that you want to send in, you can read that information there. I'm just kind of going down through his donate website here, but just some really cool stuff, and kind of hoping maybe we'll have Frank on to maybe talk a little bit about this and maybe do a full show like we did at Celebration 6. But just be aware of that. Frank just does great work for the hobby, and it was really great, Frank, to hear that you're going to be a part of Celebration 7. And the last announcement I would like to 12th Parsec of Space Trees fame and hopefully fortune has a website up and running now. Some of you might remember his Space Trees campaign, and he still definitely has those for sale at his new store website, 12thparsec.com. And you can actually order stuff right on there. And he even has a really neat alcove set there that I think looks pretty familiar. You can even order a light-up version of that, but definitely give his website a look-see. Trust me, I have some of his own stuff in my own collection, and his Space Tree set is just fantastic. As most of you well know, we are horribly, horribly depressed. Some people even say oppressed when it comes to having some set pieces and diorama-like things to display all of our action figures and whatnot. And this is just a great storefront and just a great person to do business with. I highly recommend him. He built this up from an Indiegogo campaign and has really made something out of it. So we definitely want to, wish 12th Parsec and his team the very best, and I can't wait to have them back on a future podcast too. They've already said yes, Dan. So
Very good.
yeah, I look forward to that, and it was just really cool to get that set in my hands. I can't wait to get that alcove set in my hands too, and do an online review for it. But just great folks, and I definitely wanted to give you a heads up on them. So those are the announcements, and I did it without a horrible amount of time. Pretty good for me, Dan.
Not bad at all.
Yeah.
I was poised to jump in and stop you if you went too far, but you did it on your own. You were good.
Yeah, for once. For once. Anyway, what we want to do this evening is we're here to talk about, and I know we're a little bit late, and most of that is my fault. And Dan had a little bit of a sore throat, I believe, when we were first thinking about trying to talk about that. But we want to break down Toy Fair International 2015. I guess I would be a bit, premature if, I didn't introduce Dan a little bit. Dan is definitely just an awesome customizer. He is into many different lines. He combines lines. He has just a legendary painting technique that is just phenomenal. Like I can still remember the one piece that we interviewed you, I don't know how many years ago it's been now, Dan, but all of the different colors, it was like a pirate piece that had all the blues and the purples and the greens, and
the statue of the monument of Jolly Roger. Yes.
Jolly Roger. I knew it was a pirate. Yeah, it was just I can still remember that. And he does Masters of the Universe stuff and just fantasy stuff. He's really big into the Lord of. He's into it all. Big Joe Customizer is on a podcast. Uh, what's the podcast you're on for Joe?
It's JoeCustoms.com podcast. We do it once a month, and it's mostly features Joe Customizer, but we do a little bit of sci-fi, a little Star Wars, a little everything too.
Cool. So you definitely want to check that out too. But just Dan is always there. Dan was willing to, he kind of pulled me and said, "Hey, I live somewhat close, to these places where they're doing these conventions. Would you, want me to go there and maybe ask them a couple questions and, talk about a gift that fell, right in my lap?" And Dan has been, covering that stuff for us for a few years now, doing just a phenomenal job. And I've sent him in half-armed and, with no weapon at all, and he's came out definitely, with the victory, so to speak. And he asks some tough questions and does it in a very professional manner. So, Dan, before we get into Toy Fair, I just want to say a very public thank you very much for doing that for Imperial Shipyards.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm always happy to help, and I figured, like you said, take advantage of my proximity. I'm 25 miles from Manhattan, and getting into the city is, depending on which part of the city I'm getting into, it's either 2 train rides or a ferry, and that's it. So it's nice and easy. I can get into where all the big stuff's being held, and I don't mind. I love this hobby. I love working for, help to further the hobby and further the site and everything else involved with customizing. So it's my pleasure to do it.
Well, like I said, you just do a great job with it, and like I said, I'm really very pleased with all the stuff that you do. But how about we talk the Hasbro presentation? I'm going to pull up some of the stuff and we'll take a look at it. But what was the main, you're a few weeks removed from that now. What was your main thing that you took away from the Hasbro presentation, Dan?
The main thing I took away from the Hasbro presentation that it seems like their main love right now is Transformers. Mm-hmm. Their Transformers line is answering every prayer that Transformers fans have had for the last 30 years. They're releasing updated versions of characters that everybody loved. They have this incredible set coming out of the Constructicons. Mm-hmm. And whereas in the past, the Constructicons were always done with these little tiny, almost matchbox-sized construction vehicles that went together and formed a Devastator that was about 9 inches tall, give or take. This new
I just
version,
put the image on the screen.
Exactly. I read that. Each individual Constructicon is Voyager class, which means the individual Constructicons themselves are almost as big as the whole combined Devastator was in the 80s. So when you put them together, you get a Devastator that's like 2.5 feet tall, and it's a gorgeous piece of engineering. I actually got to get real close to that and take a good look at it. It's beautiful. That seems to be their favored child right now is the Transformers. Marvel is pretty lucrative for them as well. They're actually continuing the 4-inch Infinities line, which the Infinite Series line, which a lot of us kind of would have put money on that it would have been dead because they're switching everything to those little 2.5-inch figures. But no, it's continuing. There's 2 more waves coming up, and they even have a special box set of Ant-Man riding an ant, which is fantastic. I actually want to grab a couple of those for customizing purposes because I'm sure there's plenty of planets out there where people ride giant insects. So when you see them, and plus that set, $19.99 retail.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Now that picture you have up right now, that's an accessory that comes with the 7-inch Ant-Man, the Marvel Legends. It comes with that little ant, which I was looking at. It's about 2 inches, give or take, and the Ant-Man figure is real tiny. He's almost a Micro Machine size. And there's another figure with that set too, the villain, Yellow Jacket. They all come together in one package. It's got the 7-inch Ant-Man. It's got the little tiny Ant-Man with the ant and a little tiny Yellow Jacket. So it's a pretty cool little set. It's part of the Infinite Legends series. But that set that you have up on screen right now, that is the one that really impressed me. That was my favorite thing I saw. All the legs on the ant are articulated. The neck is articulated. The wings have a ball joint, so you can put them in just about any position to accommodate either they're flat against the ant's side, up for flying, all different positions in between. It is a gorgeous piece, and like I said, $19.99 retail price. Wow. And the box is pretty big. I held my hands above the packaging, and it was probably a good 10, 12 inches long by about 7 or 8 inches high by about maybe 2.5 inches thick. So it was a nice presentation piece. There's probably even a boxed image in the photos somewhere, because I know I took one.
I'm finding them right now. Here's
Yeah.
there's the.
You can see it. You can see the top of the bottom of the box behind the ant. So it's a nice presentation piece. Like I said, that is my favorite thing I saw at the Hasbro show. Because unfortunately, I'm sure by this point all of our listeners know that they really didn't show anything Star Wars wise because of the embargo from Disney.
Right.
Where everything has to kind of be held mum until Episode 7 stuff is announced or released, sometime in September. But for what they lacked with the Star Wars, they made up for with the Transformers and the Marvel, and even the Jurassic World stuff. The dinosaurs, some of them look really nice. But the big problem, and they don't show it in any of the photos, I tried to get a couple pictures of it. On one side of the dinosaur are visible scrolls. Like the dinosaurs, they're not like the old ones where they were kind of put together like an action figure with a sonic welded torso, and the arms and legs were popped in like how modern figures are. From one side, the dinosaur looks fantastic, but you flip it over, and there's 6 or 7 really highly visible screw holes with screws inside them. They end up almost looking like those little Chap May animals you'll find at Toys R Us.
Right.
So I was very disappointed because I wanted an Ankylosaurus. They finally made an Ankylosaurus, my favorite dinosaur since I was a kid, and he's got screw holes that are visible. So I'd have to fill them over and re-sculpt and paint, and it's just not worth. Yeah, the Ankylosaurus right there you can see the picture of. He looks great from that side, but flip him over, and he's got lots of visible screw holes.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I was so disappointed when I saw those.
Sounds like Abe's Epoxy to the rescue.
Yeah, pretty much. That's it. You're going to have to re-sculpt them and then match the paint.
Well, somebody told me toys are meant to be played with, but, man, come on. At least make some plugs or something, but, all right.
Yeah, there was a company years ago called Blue Box International. They used to go by the initials BBI. They made a lot of military stuff. And they would make full 1/18th scale aircraft and armored vehicles and whatnot, and they would actually fill in all of the plug holes with all the screw holes with plugs that were the same exact color as the rest of the plastic, and they were contoured if they went over like a line in the mold or like the grill in the engine, anything like that. They were contoured to match, so you really couldn't even see where this thing was put together. I wish Hasbro would invest in the same thing.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yep.
All right. Well, let's see. Where was I going to go first? Just your initial overall thing, and then okay, I have to ask: was there really a farting Furby there?
There was. They have this new thing called Furbaka. It's kind of like a mashup between Star Wars and the Furbies.
Okay.
And it's standard Furby size, about maybe like 8-10 inches tall. But they had a gigantic one in the lobby upstairs, and there was a guy inside it, and he was kind of like just moving it back and forth, because the Furby moves a little bit, and it had a speaker, and it would play the noises, and yeah, it did sound a little flatulent. And let me tell you, at 5 feet tall, those things are freaky. Like, you want to kick it over because you're afraid to eat you. They're weird looking when they're that big.
So yeah, there's let me try to get an image up of that particular offering real quick. But yeah, it looked to me like it was pretty huge, but it
came up to about maybe just below the neckline of my shirt, so it puts it at about 5 feet. And there was some poor soul was stuck inside that thing, crouched down with it on his back.
Poor thing.
That seems to be their big push this year. That and the Blade Builders. That seems to be where they're right now until the Episode 7 stuff starts rolling out. That seems to be their big push. Just like last year we had those little little Green Army Men guys.
Yeah. Very good. So, the Furbaka, what do you think? You gonna buy one?
I'm not really big on a lot of the ancillary stuff. Like, I just do the 3 3/4 inch figures. I could see little kids going crazy for it though, because it's cute. It is. It honestly, it looks like a mix between like a Gremlin with the Mogwais and Chewbacca. So I could see little kids liking it. But for serious collectors, I think it's little more than a novelty. But they definitely seem to have put a lot of new technology in it because it's very interactive. They had one that was set up, and it was interacting with it as you talked to it, and you pat it on the head, it would do things. So they definitely have some some next gen electronics in it. So it's a pretty impressive piece for that. But as far as me personally, that's not my thing.
Yeah, I
But like
kind
I
of
said,
was.
I can see kids going crazy for it though.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I was thinking of, man, that was really cool. I remember when the Furbies were really huge, and kind of meshing Star Wars with Furby might be a really neat thing. But we'll just have to wait and see. It's like Hasbro is always looking for that next other line that they can put together to reinvigorate some things, and that kind of brings us up to the next thing I wanted to talk a little bit about. What do you think of these guys?
The Blade Builder, as far as customizing goes, like they had a couple of them on display. You weren't really allowed to play with them because I don't think they were functional yet. I think they were still prototypes.
Hmm.
But they definitely you can put them together in almost any way you could imagine because there's so many different connectors and so many different types of blades.
Hmm.
But it almost from somebody who's actually handled a sword,
Hmm.
a lot of those configurations are the best way to lose a leg. Like some of the configurations make no sense whatsoever from an actual logical stand. Like the one you have on the screen right there. That's a good way to impale yourself. But like I said, I can see kids going crazy for it. These things look like some 10 or 12-year-old doodled them all over his notebook at school and was like, dude, I made the most insane lightsaber. And that's basically where they got the toy idea from. But some of the parts, and I can say from a customizer standpoint, some of those pieces, especially the curved elbow pieces,
Hmm.
I could see if a couple, months down the road or a year down the road, whatever, they hit clearance, I will grab a bunch of those to use in dioramas. I could see using some of those curved pieces as pipes in a wall or parts of a nuclear reactor or all sorts of cool stuff. So it does have some secondary uses. But as far as an actual toy itself, I think kids will love it. I think that there'll be kids trying to create the most insane lightsaber combinations possible because lightsabers do tend to sell very well. You always see them, the basic lightsabers, the little $9.99 ones, are almost always disappearing from the stores.
Hmm.
So kids seem to love the lightsabers. I think this may actually be a decent-sized hit for them, as long as they don't price it too high.
Hmm. Yeah, just a really neat looking. I mean, over 700 combinations, they said. Is that what they were?
That's what they were talking about during the presentation. They had I honestly don't know if I got a picture of it or not because I took pictures of so much stuff that day.
Hmm.
There was a presentation where they had maybe 10 or 12 different combinations up on little plastic stands, and behind them was a print of the whole wall was done with all the different combinations that were possible, or at least a large number of them. And there were quite a few. There was a lot of different things, but a lot of them, like I said, highly impractical.
Mm.
But there was definitely universal ways they can be attached. There's one that it's a handle with like 3 or 4 things coming off the above where the knuckle guard would be. An X connector make a like lightsaber, and there's all different minis like Yoda lightsabers that are shorter, so you can have a smaller blade on the front of a larger blade. There's so many different combinations that can be done. I can see kids just buying a bunch of pieces and just going to there. That picture you have up right now is one of
Hmm.
the more unusual ones. And they actually had one. It was on display there, but it had 2 more blades, the same configuration, and it kind of looked like a swastika.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, somebody pointed it out, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and they took the other 2 off.
Yeah, probably a good move.
Yeah, but there's a lot of different combinations that can be done with this. I think from a strict imagination standpoint, this is the coolest Star Wars thing they showed at the presentation.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. From it looks pretty neat.
Yeah.
Cool deal. All right. Let me see here. So, I mean, why we're at that? As soon as people found out that we're there, that was all the Star Wars. What I mean, I just have to get. What was the general reaction?
It happened during the presentation itself.
Uh-huh.
For anybody who hasn't gone, when you go to the Hasbro event in the city, the very first thing you do, you go into an auditorium and you see a slideshow, a PowerPoint presentation of all the different brands, And the first one that came up was Marvel, and they showed a lot of stuff. They showed the Age of Ultron toys and Ant-Man and stuff that we haven't really seen too much of because they're not out yet.
Mhm.
And everybody was going crazy. And then they did, I can't remember what the next one up was, but then they went to Star Wars. And they started out with Furbaka, and then the lightsabers, and then there was something else which just escapes me. I can't remember what it was. And then they're just like, thank you, and they walk off the stage. And just a dead silence for a second. Everybody's looking at each other, looking back and forth. And then you hear a bunch of people go, what? That's it? That's all we're getting? And then Transformers came out, and everybody was happy again. So, But when they're like, all right, thank you, and they walk off stage really fast with the Furbaka following them, the full-size one.
Oh, jeez.
There was a moment of, wait a minute, did we just get punked? What happened here? Like, where's the action figures?
Huh.
And then we found out later on, of course, that after the next two waves that have been announced, there will be a little break with the Black Series, and there really won't be any new material coming out until sometime in September, I think, is the street date for the Episode 7 toys. So we're going to have a little bit of a dry spell, but that's the reason why nothing was shown, because there is nothing to show that they're allowed to yet, because everything is under an embargo from Disney. But there was definitely some high tension in the room, to say it politely. And it carried over onto the show floor downstairs.
Yeah, I can imagine. I was just, I know that most of us, me just from a fan site perspective, I was thinking, well, there's not a whole lot they're probably going to be able to show us here. But I was thinking that, perhaps we'd see a little bit more and hear about, how these last waves are going to come out. We knew there was going to be a Rebel Saga Legends wave. We knew there was going to be a Black Series 3 3/4 wave. We knew we had at least, a few new 6-inch figures coming out. I figured maybe, that. And I don't even know that they showed as much at Toy Fair this time as you saw back in New York in October. Is that a pretty fair assessment?
That actually is a fact. At the October show, the Hasbro's 'Twas the Night Before party, they showed Moseb Binid, they showed the new Jawas, they showed Leia as Bosch, they showed a whole bunch of figures. They constituted, I believe it was supposed to be 2 waves, but now they've broken it up into 3 because they're actually putting in more like reissue figures.
Mm-hmm.
And that last wave that's supposed to be the very last one before they take the hiatus is the one that a lot of people are worried about now. That's the one with Mosep and the Jawas and Bosch. And we really don't know if or when that's coming at the moment. Hopefully that'll change in the next couple of weeks. But the only ones that have been announced that we know definitely are coming are Commander Doom, the red clone commander, I can't remember his name, I'm sorry, and the Imperial Naval officer, the blue and white one. We know those are coming. But none of that stuff was shown at Toy Fair. The only thing they showed at Toy Fair at all in the 3 3/4 inch scale were the Rebels figures, both the Mission and Legend series that we had already seen, and actually were in stores at the time Toy Fair was going on. But we saw so much more in October as far as the Black Series is concerned, and even the if I remember correctly, I think we may have actually seen 1 or 2 more figures of the Black 6-inch as well in New York in October than we did at Toy Fair. But there were some improvements made. A lot of people were complaining about the Wampa that was shown in October because it didn't have paint on the horns. And I spoke to Joe about that. He Joe Ninavaji, the Hasbro brand manager. Yep.
Right.
And he said that was just an omission from that particular prototype that was shown on display. The one that was at Toy Fair had the corrected gray paint on the horns, and he said that prototype is the one that's going to be production later on. So any ones you find in the store will have the paint on the horns, so don't worry about it, anybody out there.
Good.
But yeah, October was far more revealing than Toy Fair was.
Okay. All right. Well, should we talk about this particular line at all? How well did this seem to be received? The new Hero Mashers coming out. Did people seem excited? Like kind of
That was the other line I couldn't remember what it was they talked about at the presentation. It was the Hero Mashers line. There was kind of a groan from the audience when it was shown. But as soon as Joe Ninavaji said, "You can take off Jar Jar's head," everybody erupted in laughter and cheering. So you can decapitate Jar Jar. So that's one thing that I think the line may actually do well for. I think this, again, this is not really something that's for collectors like us. This is more for the kids. But the mashers seem to be moving pretty well, at least in my neck of the woods. Like there seems to be some decent refill going on the shelves, so that usually means they're selling, or they wouldn't be, refilling the pegs. So hopefully this will bring some more kids into the Star Wars saga, and it's customizing made easy. This will hopefully get kids as they get older to get that bug to customize their figures and be like me and make all this cool stuff that you see behind me. Hopefully this will be something that lights that fire under somebody.
That's a good perspective on these, Dan. That you start off small, and they say, well, you know what, I did it with these guys. How come I can't do this with regular action figures? And
No.
why not?
They're nice and easy the way they come apart. It's a very simple peg system that pops in and out, so even little hands can do it without too much trouble. At the party in October, Hasbro had a whole table full of Transformers ones out for you to play with.
Mm-hmm.
And I was messing around with them while I was waiting to talk to Joe, and they do pop apart really easy. You can put them back together. I made a couple of interesting combinations using Optimus Prime and Soundwave parts, and I left them on the table for other people to enjoy. But they're kind of fun to play with. Like I said, not really for guys like us, but I think this will be very good for kids to, like I said, kind of like spark their imagination a little bit.
Yeah.
It's not just a regular action figure. This is more like a building system.
I agree. All right. Well, any interest in talking about anything from the Jurassic Park line?
There's one thing from the Jurassic Park line that I think will be useful to customizers.
Mm-hmm.
They are, well, it's not quite a re-release, but what they did was in the original Jurassic Park line, way back in the 90s, they produced a Jurassic Park compound playset where it came with a building and a bunch of the fences with the sonic emitters on top and everything else. It was really cool, and it's kind of a big-ticket item now. What they did was they took the fence pieces and the Jurassic Park gate that opens up, and they retooled it to say Jurassic World.
Mm-hmm.
They pantographed it down because the original was made for 5-inch figures, so the fence pieces are fairly tall. They come in at close to a foot tall. They shrunk them down a little bit. They stand about 9 inches tall now. And it comes with a T-Rex and a little vehicle with a little guy in it that he can attack. But the fence pieces themselves, it's supposed to be some low price point. It was like $24.99, I think, was the price point of the playset. And it comes with maybe 8 or 10 fence pieces. It comes with the gate. It comes with the T-Rex, which is the same T-Rex that's in the $10 basic assortment. So you're essentially paying $15 for the fence pieces and $10 for the T-Rex. That is actually really cool, and all the fence pieces use a universal connector, so you can get as many sets as you want and put them together and make an enormous enclosure. So I think as far as a customizing standpoint, that may be a very big seller because there's going to be people that want those fences.
Well, yeah, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, I'm just sitting here looking at some of the dinosaurs as you're talking about play set, and how do you feel about like the slashed pieces, the exposed ribs, and
I'm of two minds of that. One, I think a lot of them are very well sculpted. They're really nice. And on some of the more deluxe dinosaurs over the years, and I understand it is going to continue with this line for the bigger ones, they come with a little skin piece that plugs in, so you can still have them be undamaged. But on the smaller basic ones, I believe that's it's just that detail.
Right.
So it kind of limits aesthetically. You can't really pretend this is a healthy dinosaur because he's got a big gash sticking out of him. But they're sculpted beautifully. They even as far back as I believe they put in that dino damage for the first time with the Lost World toys, the second Jurassic Park movie, and they've been very well executed since the beginning. They do look pretty good.
Well, there's one that might be good for an old. How do you call that race? That alien race, Sristuck? Is that right?
Oh, the Cheruvi or whatever. The ones from
the reptilian race that. Yeah.
That was from Truce Pecora.
That'd be a cool one for that. Maybe a little reptilian crossover.
Yeah, and they are actually very much built like raptors. So you could just do a little cosmetic work to the top of the head. Because if I remember correctly, they had large nostrils that had the little tongues that came out. But for the most part, that's pretty good. You just got to sculpt some armor on them. And I'm sure the Star Wars, how was that old book? The Guide to Alien Species, I think it was, had some really good illustrations. But yeah, they could definitely be modified into to Seruk or Seruvi or whatever they were called.
What about putting an old saddle on one of these dudes and a Mando, man?
Well, I've actually done that quite a bit with some of the older Jurassic Park dinosaurs in my collection. I've made
Mm-hmm.
saddles for them. Mostly, I tend to stick to the quadruped ones because I think they balance a little better. But depending
Mm-hmm.
on how they actually balance, you could do it with the bipedal ones as well.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
That dinosaur you're showing right now, if you go back one picture,
Okay.
that is the new like super dinosaur, the one that the lab actually creates at the park. It's got
Mm-hmm.
attributes of a bunch of different dinosaurs. That toy is really cool. The prototype they had on display, the electronics were not self-contained yet. They were attached to a battery pack.
Mm-hmm.
But according to the rep I was talking to, in the film, the dinosaur changes colors. It can camouflage itself.
Ooh.
They put an LED system inside the dinosaur that when you
Spoiler
flick a
alert!
switch,
Spoiler alert!
there's LEDs under the skin that change color, and the color kind of like bleeds through the whole
Whoa.
dinosaur because the skin is partially translucent, and it looked pretty cool.
Mm.
It flexed from like it went from like green to blue to red to yellow, all underneath the skin, and it was actually really cool looking.
Well, now that reminds me of a certain planet. What's the planet? Who was it that got to Order 66 there? Uh, Blue Twi'lek.
Salukimi.
Yeah. Make a Salakima beastie with that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Cool deal.
And you can see the dino damage on that as one of the
Mhm.
deluxe ones. There's actually a little piece that slides in and out. If you look on its side,
Yeah, right there. I can see it.
it slides in and out. That way you can have him wounded or whole.
Well, now that looks a little bit niftier.
Yeah. And that one, if I remember correctly, his price point wasn't that high either. It was like $29.99. So it's pretty good, especially considering how big it is.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite large. It was probably a good 2 feet from nose to tail.
Dude.
Maybe a little bit under 2 feet.
Mm-hmm. Kids are gonna love some of these.
Oh, the role play items. I think the kids will love the heads, and there's
Mhm.
also the raptor claws right there. Yeah, I think kids will like that a lot.
Cool
That
deal.
seems to be a very big portion of the toy sales now. Seems to be this role play stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they look like they have hero mashers themselves too, don't they?
Yeah, they have a whole line of mashers, and they're consistent across the entire line. You can use the masher parts from one line for another.
Mm-hmm.
Like all across now, they have Marvel superheroes, they have Transformers, they have Star Wars, Jurassic World, and somebody mentioned that the possibility that next year, when GI Joe returns to the toy shelves, there may be GI Joe mashers too. But that's something that's kind of like up in the air right now.
Right. Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think? Get into a little bit of Marvel because
Sure, yeah. The Marvel stuff, like I said, we talked a little bit about it before. The Ant-Man and Ant set was my favorite thing I saw at the Hasbro show.
Mm-hmm.
It is just such an amazing piece. I plan on getting at least a couple of them, strictly for customizing purposes. And the Ant-Man himself will actually work very well for jumpsuited characters, or even you can put Mando armor on top of that. Because it's a nice quilted jumpsuit. It's got a little bit of detail lines sculpted into it, but it's a nice one-piece suit on a humanoid figure.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the Marvel Infinite 4-inch series coming out are figures that are phenomenal looking. Like the Chameleon, who's an old Spider-Man villain who can change his appearance, and he comes with a couple different heads to swap out. They've got probably the last of the major Thor characters. They've got Thunderstrike coming, and he looks really nice. They've got another character. The one I actually really want to get is a guy named Korg. He's a big rock alien. He was the very first alien, very first opponent that Thor fought in his first issue of Journey into Mystery 83.
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually putting him out as a figure, and it's very cool looking. And you got some 6-inch stuff you were showing there. That's a 12-inch Titan figure. The 6-inch stuff seemed to be very well received, too, because of the Build-A-Figures they come with. They each come with a piece, and if you buy all the figures in the wave, you can put them together and make a larger character. The big one that blew everybody away was the Hulkbuster Armor Iron Man.
Oh, yeah, let me go back. There's that one guy.
Yeah, that's Korg, yeah.
Yeah. Let me go back and see if I can find, because I thought that one looked really cool, the Hulkbuster. Yeah.
That's the one. That is part of the, I believe it's the Ant-Man wave comes with that one. Or Ant-Man might come with the Ultron figure. It's one or the other. but it's enormous. It is true scale compared to the 6-inch characters, and
Wow.
the Hulkbuster armor in the film stands between 10 and 11 feet tall. So if you
Mm-hmm.
figure a 6-inch figure equals a 6 foot tall man, this thing comes in close to a foot,
Oh, wow.
and it is very heavy. It is highly articulated, and it is just a beautiful piece of engineering. It is at the presentation they said it was the largest Build-A-Figure they'd ever done, but that's not technically true because there have been bigger ones. The Sentinel was taller. Fin Fang Foom was enormous. He was part of that Hulk Legends series.
Hmm.
But I'm thinking they probably mean this is the biggest one they've done in the last like 5 years. So
Yeah, just can't imagine customizers getting their hands on this for customation purposes.
oh, that would be such an amazing like Titanic battle droid, just an enormous
Oh,
stomping on clone troopers across the battlefield.
yeah. I mean, I can even see some Pacific Rim customizers wanting to get their hand on this guy. Or
Oh yeah, it would very easily
oh
become a
man,
Jaeger. Yeah.
can you imagine like Tankster Innovation getting his hands on this guy? And
Oh, he would do a great job. He always
oh,
does with the big mech characters. But that figure was very impressive.
yeah. So Marvel's got some pretty cool stuff coming out. Well, another bunch of Hero Mashers. And,
Yep. Those are 6-inch figures, including some exclusive sets.
mm-hmm. These are the PR images they sent afterwards. Not a huge amount of 3 3/4 images sent, huh?
No, that was surprising because they showed off like 2 waves of 3 3/4 inch figures, but in the promo images, there was only like less than a dozen photos.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got Korg there. They showed a blue and yellow Deadpool, which I believe is from his time in X-Force areas. Yeah. There was the Chameleon, Thunderstrike, Emma Frost, who you're showing, the Gold Ultron, who's basically just a repaint of the older Ultron figure that's been out a couple times. There was a couple other ones too. That is, I believe that's a 6-inch. I don't think that's a
Okay.
4-inch one. That's the Reaper, Grim Reaper.
Yeah, like I said, I'm kind of going through the 3 3/4 inch images now, and
Yeah, that Spider-Man was part of it. That's the Ultimate Spider-Man, I believe it is. That's the Miles Morales version.
okay. And we got to that was all the 3 3/4 stuff they sent.
Well, the photos I took, there was a lot more. There was far more pictures of them.
Yeah, let's see if we can get back to some of that. Galleries.
I think they're going to have a big year with Marvel this year with the Avengers movie, and I don't know if Ant-Man's going to be as big a hit. It could be. They're saying it may be the first Marvel movie that flops, but I still think it looks impressive from what I've seen of it.
Here we go. Here's some more 3 3/4.
Yeah, it's the ones I took.
Figures.
Some of those ones we saw back in October, like you see the Vulture in the background, you see his green wings sticking up.
Mm-hmm.
He was shown back in October. Shanna the She-Devil, who's a kind of cave-looking woman in the front.
Here. Right.
Dr. Octopus, the Juggernaut Colossus version in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Those were shown in October, which is probably why they didn't send any press photos, maybe. And you can see the guy in the purple jacket right in front of Juggernaut. That's the Chameleon. He comes with a couple different heads, which are visible at his feet there, so you can change them into other characters.
What a great idea! Let's do that for Star Wars.
Well, he's a master of disguise, so they don't really have too much of that in Star Wars. I mean, we had the one shapeshifter species. We had Zam Wessel. The I can't remember her species name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they were shapeshifters, and pretty much the only shapeshifters we saw in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's a 6-inch wave there. That's the Thanos Build-A-Figure and the King Odin Build-A-Figure waves. The Odin figures are out now, and the Thanos ones, they're starting to show up on eBay from overseas, which means they'll probably be hitting here in the next like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the 3 3/4 inch guys again. That's the next assortment of the 6-inch figures with the large Rhino Build-A-Figure in the middle. That, I believe, is a Spider-Man centric wave because you see it's all Spidey characters.
Right, Spider-Man, Marvel Legends.
Yeah.
Cool looking little play sets. This is their smaller scale, right?
Yeah, those are the 2.5-inch tall Avengers figures. And the playsets. The playset, the Avengers Tower, actually comes as, I want to say it's 5 or 6 different playsets that you put together. And
Wow, there's a novel idea. Yeah.
yeah, if they can see, there's some of the pictures of the playsets separate. Now,
Mm-hmm.
if only these things were, 3.5 inches taller, we'd all be happier.
Right. Yeah, a little small. We were all worried that these waves will turn our Star Wars stuff into that small too, but thankfully that doesn't seem like that's going to be the case.
If you look at the photo of the diorama they had of all those 2.5-inch figures, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
see that there's a figure in there that is not shown on any of the shelves.
Let's go
You can see all
back
the
here.
figures on the shelves there, right? If you
Mm-hmm.
look down towards the middle, right
Mm-hmm.
about, you can see the Scarlet Witch. A little bit over to the right from where you are. You see a little like purple or red blur?
Right.
That's the little magic things that go around her hands that look like she's casting a spell.
Oh.
There should be a close-up photo of her in there too, because I did take one.
Mm.
She's not pictured anywhere else at Toy Fair. She's not in any of the packages, the backs of the packages. She's not shown on any of the displays, but they had her in the diorama.
I'm just going through these as quick as I can go through them here. Maybe we can find her.
Because I'm pretty sure I took a picture of her, because I noticed the fact that she wasn't anywhere else at Toy Fair.
What little bit of Star Wars they actually had there.
Yep.
Imperial Troop Transport, 6-inch IG-88.
Yeah, a
Still
fun story about that transport. I remember I told you on the phone back at the Hasbro party, Joe
Mm-hmm.
Ninavaji actually let me hold the prototype. Because I had asked him a question about how it opened, and he's like, "Oh, pick it up, take a look." And I opened up the the thing to look inside, and I think I was the only person that night they allowed to touch one of the prototypes.
Well, I'm glad you didn't break it.
Oh yeah, somebody broke the Darth Maul 12-inch figure at that party. They broke his leg off.
Mm.
Yeah, and Hasbro wasn't happy. There's a picture of her. You can see her
Okay.
right dead center. She's not pictured anywhere else at Toy Fair, and I can't find any reference to her in any of Hasbro's press releases. But they had her on display at Toy Fair. So if you don't see her on the shelves and the line gets canceled and she never comes out, we have a photo of her on our Facebook page.
There we go. Imperial Shipyards, didn't get those photos up there. Cool stuff. Okay.
And I didn't see any pictures of her anywhere else on the net. I don't think anybody else noticed her in the display and took a picture.
Well, I'll be honest with you. She's news to me as of tonight. I mean, looking at all these pictures multiple times and just not,
Well, there's a lot going on in that, especially in the diorama photo like that. It's just
Mhm.
like I just happened to catch her on there. And I walked over to the display where they had everything set up, and I'm looking. I'm like, "There's no Scarlet Witch on here, but there's one in the case." I'm like, "Let me go back and take a picture of that."
There you go. So should we talk what little bit of Star Wars they had on display? At least it looks like the Wampa has his horns collared now.
Yep, the Wampus horns are painted, and as I stated before, Joe Ninavaji said that the one we saw in October was a prototype that they had just missed that paint app on. And unfortunately, everybody got upset thinking it was going to come unpainted. It was the same color as the rest of the toy. But as you can see here, very clearly, it is painted. This one has the full apps, and that is the one that's going to be used as the paint master for the actual production toy. So.
All right. Now let's just see it hit retail before the Force Awakens hits. A lot of people are worried. Are we going to see it?
Yep. Yeah, because the next assortment coming out is just the Tauntaun and the speeder bike reissue, right?
Right. Yeah. Han and Tauntaun. This one's coming out, and
Yeah.
Imperial Troop Transport. It's out just as of probably a few weeks now.
Yeah, I saw one at Toys R Us last week.
Yeah, I was like, oh damn! I wish I'd have told you I wanted one of them, but
Well, if I had known you want, I would have picked it up for you. But,
I know you would have. I know.
yeah.
6-inch IG-88 still looks pretty good.
Oh yeah, it's very nice looking.
Yeah. Command Series. I don't know that it's selling. Got some of the Rebels Mission Series figures. I finally bought my first ATDP. Got it in the mail this week.
Oh, very nice. Yeah, at Toys R Us, the same day I saw the transport, they had a whole bunch of Wave 2. And I held the Jedi Temple Guard in my hand. I was kind of looking at it. I was like, hey, he's got this cool kind of like almost like fantasy look. He almost looks like a Lord of the Rings character. But the 5 POA, I was like, I just put him right back on the peg again.
Yeah, it's really neat to see Chewy from yakface.com was doing some cool, take these regular characters and put them together to make the articulated Rebels characters, and he's doing a pretty fantastic job of it. So there's some hope out there, folks. So if you want some real movement, matter of fact, one of the ones he did was the ATDP driver.
Yeah, that looked pretty cool. I saw that. I saw Agent Callus, and I think even Chopper as well too.
So, but cool stuff. And folks, that's all the Star Wars there is to really, I mean, even discuss. They didn't have much on the showroom floor, and I'll be honest with you, from what communications I've had with Hasbro since, and I think Dan got the same feeling there. I don't know that we can really expect a whole lot on the Star Wars front until we actually have. I don't know. We get closer. I don't even know if we can expect anything for San Diego Comic-Con, or I don't even know if we can expect anything then. I just don't know.
I think we'll probably start seeing a couple of things leak out, because the street date is sometime in September, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
For the episode 7, and San Diego is in August. So hopefully maybe that they can convince Disney to let them show maybe even like a small sneak preview assortment, maybe 4 or 5, maybe the characters we've already seen in the trailer, at least see those as figures for San Diego. But I think it would be kind of rough if they go to San Diego and they honestly have nothing to show. If they just show the stuff that's been on the shelves all year, they wouldn't even be worth it for them to show up.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, this is just me spitballing here. I think we might see something at San Diego. I think, like I said, maybe even just the characters we've seen already. And this is not with any inside knowledge or anything. This is just me kind of taking an educated guess that if they're going to make the effort to go from Rhode Island, where their headquarters is, all the way out to San Diego, they're going to want to bring something with them to make fans ooh and ah over.
Yeah, one would think. I just understand Lucasfilm's gag orders they've got teams of lawyers, Dan. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. But I think if we're getting that close to release, maybe we might see something. I'm hoping anyway. But that's my prediction. So you can see it right here. I think we're going to see something for San Diego.
All right, I like the way you think. So, what do you think? We take a quick jog down through the question and answer session where you were actually able to talk with Joe a little bit about.
I didn't have a lot of time with him. Unfortunately, there was a gentleman who was ahead of me that was monopolizing a lot of Joe's time. And they had, I don't know if it was a handler or what, came by and kind of shooed him away and let me speak to them. But even after less than 5 minutes, I was given the boot too. I had to go because this other individual had monopolized, Joe and Jeff for probably a good half hour. But I was able to get a couple things in. And some of the information was good. Some of the information, unfortunately, they really couldn't share too much because of the aforementioned gag orders with Disney. And it really wasn't. I wasn't able to get into a lot of questions of like, oh, you're going to make this guy next, you're going to make this guy next, because he can't speak of anything that's not been shown already. But I was able to get some interesting stuff out. Like I was able to confirm that the rest of the bounty hunters, we're not really going to see them in the 6-inch line anytime soon. I did get this one great tidbit that they weren't able to speak about anything after the Black Series goes on hiatus, but he was able to tell me the Black Series will continue. It is going to take a little rest after the waves that have already been announced, and once the Force Awakens toys start to come out on the shelves, we will see the Black Series again. It's not going to change its name. It will still be the Black Series. Whether or not it stays with the TIE Fighter packaging, we don't know yet. But it will still be called the Black Series, and it will still feature what are supposedly collector quality figures of collector characters and some of the basic characters thrown into. But we're still going to see it continue because there was a lot of people fretting that everything was going to go to 5-point articulation, or even worse, go to those 2.5-inch figures. But I was able to get information from Joe Ninivaggi that yes, we are going to continue seeing the Black Series. There will still be super articulated figures. We may lose a point of articulation or two, and we've seen it already. Like Reese has no ankle motion at all. We may see things like that, but there's still going to be premium quality collector figures on the market.
Very good. Very good.
And one of the things we talked about, I'm a huge expanded universe fan. I'm actually very disappointed with the whole expanded universe being pretty much wiped out of existence. But they're building a new expanded universe now with novels and comics. And I had asked if these characters were going to be open for use for Hasbro. And we talked a little bit about this in October as well. And they said yes, as long as, of course, as long as Disney agrees, they will be available to them to use. And I said, well, what about Jaxon, the big green rabbit guy from the original Marvel line? Because he did appear in the new Marvel series on the cover of 2 of the variant issues. And then we kind of had a really good laugh, and he's like, yeah, never going to happen.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think they buried Jaxon in the holiday special in a vault somewhere, and they'll never be released.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the question and answers, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get as in-depth answers as I normally do from them because they really couldn't talk about anything. But there was a couple things that we talked about that were interesting. About the casual fans and collectors will be happy with the stuff that's going to be coming in the near future. The Wampus horns we talked about. We also discussed a possibility. I think this was actually your question about the walkers having the hollow detailing on the inside of their legs.
Oh, yeah. I always hated that. That's my favorite
bothers me
thing.
too. Yeah.
It's like the inside of the legs just being all open and exposed like that. It's like, man, why don't they just make a little plastic clip to clip on the inside of those things or something?
And I had discussed that with them. I said, aesthetically, it would be much more pleasing to the eye, and you really wouldn't be using a lot of extra plastic. The whole reason those gaps exist is because it's a way to save on the plastic being injected into the mold. Right. Instead of having the solid, chunk of leg, it would have areas that were scooped out. They would save on the plastic. And you really only be using a little bit more because you got these little plugs that just kind of push in. And they kind of like that idea. They said that's something they're going to talk to engineering about. But it wouldn't be for anything soon. It would probably be some point down the road if they ever decide to re-release walkers or make new ones if they show up, new types of walkers show up in the movies. It's definitely something they would think about because they want to make the best toys possible for every aspect of their customers. For the casual, the kid that plays with toys, the parents that are buying the gifts for the kids, and guys like us who want everything. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. Yep. Well, like I said, it was good that you were able to squeeze in questions. Like I said, when you were able to. Sad thing was that it just looks to me like we can really expect the I don't know. I was hoping for a mail away figure. There's no. From what I understand, there's no SDCC exclusive figure. There's no Celebration 7 exclusive figure. No more OT or PT vehicles planned. So I guess for we OT and I guess now even the PT fans are going to have to be very patient. Let's let the Force Awakens line get out there, but then we can reasonably expect to see some of maybe the more collector-centered OT and PT figures come out. Is that a pretty reasonable assessment, Dan?
That's pretty much what I got from my time with them. That it's going to be the big focus is going to be on the new film, but they
and rightfully so.
Yeah, exactly. Disney loves the original trilogy. Not so much the prequel trilogy. I mean, they kind of put the squash order on that with a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
So we may not see too much in the way of the prequel stuff, except for maybe things that are easy like clone repaints because they already have the molds. And there's so many different battalions they could use the colors for. I'm sure we may see a couple more of those pumped out, either in the Mission series or the Legends, or even in whatever the Black series comes back as. But I don't think you'll be seeing a lot of other PT merchandise. OT, I think, will live forever because that's the one that started it all. Everybody loves the OT.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think it's ever going to truly go away. It'll take little naps here and there like it's doing right now. But it'll always be around.
Mm-hmm.
But the main focus is going to be on the new material because that's going to be that's their bread and butter right now.
All right, man. Hey, let's ditch Hasbro, and let's talk about some of the other stuff you're able to see at Toy Fair International. Let's start with that. Grumpy Cat, Dan.
Grumpy Cat. I love Grumpy Cat more than any 41-year-old man should be allowed to. I think Grumpy Cat is the coolest thing. And when I actually found out that Grumpy Cat was going to be there, that was the thing I was most excited about the whole weekend. So I went there first in the morning. She was only there from 10 to 12. So as soon as I got in, I registered, I got my badge, and I ran right. I looked on the map. I found the location of the guns booth and ran right there. I was like the 100th person online, give or take. And I was actually in and out in less than 40 minutes because they kept it moving pretty brisk, so it was nice. And she's so tiny. Like that's the one thing when you see pictures of her online with nothing you can really judge her scale against, it's hard to tell. I thought she was the size of a full-size cat. She's not, because she has feline dwarfism. So she's very, very tiny, and that also explains the downturned mouth, because that's a symptom of feline dwarfism. But she's adorable, and I was so happy to actually get the chance to see her and get my picture taken with her. So that was my probably my favorite thing of the whole morning.
I just like yeah, I like the picture because it just looks like you're ticking her off, and I'm like, all right, Dan.
Yeah, that's basically it.
All right, what just kind of going through here. I mean, is there anything else you think we really ought to, focus in on that you thought was really cool?
The things I like the best, and a lot of people may not care for them because they're not articulated, but there's a company called Schleich. They're the next group of photos you can see there. You'll find them at Toys R Us. They make dinosaurs, they make knights, they make farm animals, they make like wildlife, all sorts of wildlife. They have a line of fantasy figures they've been doing for probably about 10 years now, and I have a bunch of their play sets. I just picked up 2 of their castles dirt cheap on clearance at Toys R Us. They have some new stuff coming out that is amazing. They have this thing called the Battle Arena. It's a 4-sided cage with wooden fences that go all the way around it, and all sides of the cage are able to be lifted up to release. That's a picture of it right there. That thing is amazing. It's going to retail for about $99.99 because their stuff's a little pricey, but it's worth it. The quality is phenomenal. That set is amazing. I got to touch some of the parts because that's actually a production piece. It is ready to be produced. It'll be available in stores in sometime in the late spring. Every piece of it is heavy. It's high gauge plastic. It's not going to break easily. Even those little hinges, they're not going to break on you. These things are solid. It is such an amazing piece, and it can be used for science fiction. It can be used for fantasy. It can be used for historicals. It just has so much potential. And even those dragons that you see around it are amazing. They're beginning to add a small bit of articulation to some of the larger dragons. Oh, bless you. They're going to start adding some articulation. They're going to have articulated jaws, so they open and close. And some of the dragons with the wings will actually have ball joints on the wings. That creature, that one you just showed, the scorpion, you go back 2 photos, this thing is amazing.
Boy, it looks
Every joint in that tail is a ball joint. So you can articulate the tail so it lays flat or it's up to strike. All the legs are articulated, and the claws are articulated. The rider, unfortunately, is not articulated. He's a solid chunk of vinyl. But that thing is really cool. And when I was talking to the rep about it, he was pointing out the green bits, which are actually the joints.
Right.
And he was saying that they chose this bright color to really make it pop. And I said to him, I said, yeah, it also kind of shows off that, this is a venomous creature. And he pulled some guy next to him. He said, change the wording on the box to read from dangerous to venomous.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, but that piece is amazing. That's going to retail for $49.99. And, I mean, it's kind of a little high for the size it is because, like I said, all their stuff is fairly expensive. It comes from Germany, so it's all import stuff. But it's worth it. Those are little accessory packs they're coming up with. The next picture you just showed. There's one, the one on the right is a creature pack. It's a little dragon, a little spider, and a little some kind of worm. There's also, you can see there's an orange flame sword that has crystals, and you slide the sword inside the crystals on the display base, so your knight can, pull it out and have a flaming sword. Those things are pretty cool. They're going to retail for about $6. There's a dragon skull that comes with some accessories too. They're going to be just little diorama things they add to the environments that they create. And they're actually doing something interesting. You can see on the top, the packaging says Eldrador. Initially, they didn't have an actual line name. It was just, World of Knights or World of Dragons or whatever their catch-all title was.
Right.
They're actually making characters now. So when you buy them, instead of, okay, this is knight with pike, and here's, knight with broadsword, they're going to be, this is sir whatever, and this is, prince whoever this guy is. They're actually going to be characters. They're trying to create a world. And that, I think, it goes so much further than just having a generic knight, a generic king, a generic wizard. By giving them names and truly making them unique and making each one different, that's going to encourage kids to buy all the different characters.
Mm-hmm.
And the quality and the painting is just top-notch. They are beautiful, beautiful pieces.
Seem like they are. Just gorgeous stuff.
That's the stuff I think that was probably the most impressive to me at Toy Fair itself in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they're not even articulated for the most part, with the exception of the Scorpion is actually articulated. But I think it's just they're great pieces. They're beautiful display pieces on their own. They take paint really nicely. I painted up they had this thing called the Summer Elf House. It was done up in it was very girly. It was for their elves line. I turned it into an orc outpost. I painted it up in deeper, more realistic colors. I took off all the little flowers and stuff that was on it, and I added these skulls and all this crazy stuff to it, and it looks amazing. The stuff is easily customizable, and I think it's worth the money, even though it is a little pricey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, NECA had some great stuff on display. They had some new Pacific Rim stuff. They had a bunch of new Planet of the Apes on display, new Terminator. Just amazing pieces. You can see right there, you're looking at the Diamond Select Toys. Diamond Select Toys works as kind of like a catch-all umbrella. They will have toys from all different companies that they release under their name through the Diamond distribution. And they had some incredible stuff. They had those giant retro 12-inch Star Wars figures that are made off the original Kenner molds. They do the DC Comics figures. They have a beautiful Batman line for the animated series. They're making a 2-foot-long Batmobile, which I took a couple of photos for, it was beautiful. I'm not really that big on the company Funko. They make those reaction figures where they look like the old Kenner toys. Not really crazy about that because I prefer, the more hyper detailed stuff. But I know they're really popular right now. And
what about these guys? These Funko?
Those are the Legends Legacy figures. Those are Funko, but they're 6-inch scale.
Ah.
And their 6-inch stuff is amazing. It stands up right next to Marvel Legends or DC Universe figures as far as sculpt and detail and paint. And sometimes they even probably surpass it a little bit. But their 4-inch stuff is all that retro 5-point Kenner style. Yeah. And it just kills me because they have licenses on stuff. I would love to see Firefly figures produced by Hasbro, but they can't do it because Funko has a license.
Yeah.
And they just keep churning out those 5-point figures. Those guys are cool. That's from that video game, Evolve. That giant monster on the right-hand side, I think that thing is gorgeous. I actually took a picture of that by itself. I want to get one of those. Oh, it's so... Go to the next picture. You'll see. It's such a beautiful piece. Look at the sculpt on that thing.
Oh, yeah.
I want to pick up one of those to put with my Pacific Rim monsters.
Yeah, I can imagine. Looks pretty neat. All right.
Yeah, that's coming out, I think, in June. That whole line for the Evolve game.
Oh, one thing, let me see if I can find it here that I saw you do a review on, if I can find it here.
Oh, the I Am Elemental, yes.
Yeah, let me find that. Here we go, right here.
Yep.
The I Am Elemental line.
This line, I think, is such a fantastic idea. This line was started by 2 mothers from New York City who disliked the fact that most female action figures on the market are built like adult film stars. They're essentially kind of like they're so idealized and stylized that they don't really even look like real women because they're comic book characters or they're these action heroes. They wanted to create something that had a more positive body image and a more realistic physique to what an actual healthy athletic woman looked like, and they created this line. And their figures are the material they're made out of is really great. It's on par with anything Hasbro puts out. Their articulation, they're missing a couple points. They really should have articulation in the ankles to help some of the poses, and they really need to have peg holes in the bottom of their feet for stands. Some of the accessories make them a little back heavy. Like there's a character with these big, beautiful blue wings, and there's a character with a cape, and they kind of fall backwards if you don't have them supported.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a couple things they could do to really up their game and make them a major action figure producer. But
Mm.
for a first time out for this company, their work is incredible. The paint apps were gorgeous. There were virtually no bleed over from one area to the next. And you'll even see that on Hasbro stuff sometimes. And Hasbro is a
Right.
much larger company.
Mm-hmm.
But their figures are phenomenal. I have 3 of them. I had 3. I gave them to my nieces to play with. But, I reviewed them I did a full review on the site, which is available. It's mirrored on their site as well, on imelemental.com.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some exposure on that site as well.
I'll have to make sure I get that up in the show notes later, folks.
Yeah. You can see if the picture that we're looking at right now, this is the next step in the evolution of their line. It's going to be a 6-inch character called Courage. And
I thought that looked 6-inch.
yeah, that's the first machined prototype they made. Her joints were really loose. Like it's not a final piece, but it was just to show off what it's going to look like.
Mm-hmm.
The greatest thing about their 6-inch line is they're not pulling a Black Series where you're going to have a 6-inch version of the characters that you already have in 4-inch.
Mm-hmm.
The 6-inch figure is meant to be played with along with the 4-inch figures. This is a larger, more powerful character. And I was talking to the creators of the line, and their idea was that the 7 figures that are out already, they merge together somehow. Either their powers merge or they physically merge. We were talking about different ideas, and they become this character. And it's like the ultimate combination of all of their abilities, all their powers, create this almost godlike being. And each wave is going to have one of these. Like the next wave that comes out, another 7 figures are coming out later this year, and there's going to be a 6-inch figure to go with them.
Well, is it going to be like a build-a-piece, or you just...
No, she comes as a separate figure in a box.
Mm-hmm.
But it's supposed to be... that's one of the things we talked about. Like I said, there's no real backstory for these characters, so it's so little girls can make up their own stories. But I said, as a creator myself, I said, I just wonder, how does this work? Do they merge together physically and become her, or is it like a Captain Planet thing where it's like, our powers combined and this character appears? And they said that's up to the kids.
Right.
And the guy who actually sculpted the prototype, I was talking to him. He said to me his idea was that this other character, the 6-inch one, was like a god who existed on like a different parallel plane of existence, but could be called upon by the smaller, the normal human-sized characters. So there's all different ideas behind how this could work. But it is a separate figure on its own. You don't have to put it together with pieces of another figure. It comes on its own in a 6-inch scale in a little box with the character's name on it and the logo and everything. They had they didn't have the prototype box with them at Toy Fair, but they put up pictures on their website later on.
What's the standard price point on these?
The standard price point on the smaller figures, I haven't seen any in the stores myself yet, even though they gave me a list of stores where they're available, but I haven't actually gone to see them. They fall somewhere between like $7 to $10 a piece. Which is great, considering for $7 we get a 5-point articulation, Star Wars guy. Whereas here, this figure has a ball joint head, it's got ball joint shoulders, ball joint elbows, true ball hips, hinged knees, and the only thing it really missed, it could use like wrist articulation to help hold some of the accessories better. But they have very thin wrists because it is based on a more feminine form. So, women tend to run a little slimmer than men, especially when it comes to wrists and ankles and whatnot. So I can understand why they didn't add the articulation, but it could help to hold the accessories a little bit better. But they're great figures.
I take it you haven't torn one of them apart yet, right?
No, I only had the 3, and they're not even in my possession anymore. But at some point, I do want to pick up a couple for projects, especially the one with the wings. I think the one with the wings is just a beautiful sculpt.
Well,
I can see myself doing stuff with it.
Can't you see some female Mandalorian crossovers already?
I could see that, but you know what the most interesting thing? The characters, their skin tone tends to run from like a hot pink to a deep purple. There's 3 figures in the middle of the run. Their skin color is exactly the same as I can't remember what they were called, from the old Marvel Comics Star Wars run. They were the very sensuous aliens. It was something with a Z. Zeltrons. And they could actually very well be Zeltrons. And we got a Zeltron in the actual Star Wars line with the one of the Legacy comic packs.
Oh yeah, Delilah Blue. Is that
Delilah Blue? Yeah, her species.
Okay.
skin tone is almost exactly the same as the Hasbro figure. So you can have
Hey.
very easy Zeltrons right there. And their uniforms are kind of sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that the uniforms are kind of sparse as far as detailing goes, so they're perfect for customizing. You could sculpt on new stuff. You don't really have to grind off any extra details like pouches or gun holsters or anything like that. You can sculpt on new material. You can actually make them into jumpsuits. Anything that you could imagine can be done very, very easily with these figures. So I'm very impressed with them, and I really hope that they make a lot of product in the future.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, Dan, we're starting to get up there in time a little bit. Don't want to keep you too long, especially since it's our first go-round. You might decide not to come back.
Nah, you got me. You're stuck with me.
Okay. But, oops, toggling between the screens here. Basically, hits, misses, pros, cons, your just final summation of thoughts on Toy Fair?
Toy Fair this year, as far as Hasbro goes, sadly, the Star Wars stuff was a miss because the stuff we're waiting to see, we can't see yet. Right. Transformers was a big hit. Even though I'm not a Transformers collector myself, I could admire the engineering that goes into them. And like I said, they're making Transformer fans' dreams come true with their current Combiner Wars line. And I think there's going to be a lot of very, very happy Transformers fans. Marvel fans will have a good summer. Anybody who likes dinosaurs will probably like the Jurassic Park line, but I think it skews a little more towards the younger fans. As far as actual Toy Fair itself, I love the Schleich stuff. I'm looking forward to finding it in Toys R Us when it comes out. There was actually a lot of signs posted all over the place for Star Wars: The Force Awakens, but there was nothing they could show us. Only the big buyers were able to go into those rooms.
Yeah, I know you were killing me with those images. It's like, oh, Dan, what are you doing? Sneak right in there, bud.
Under heavy security. I couldn't get anywhere near it.
Oh, no. No.
But I got to... I got to see a lot of cool stuff. I actually got to touch base with somebody I haven't seen in years. Todd McFarlane, the creator of Spawn. He's actually he and I go way back to the old Heroes World distribution days. It was an old comic book distribution company. They used to do every year. They would have sales conferences where all the store owners would get together with the guys from DC and Marvel. And Image had just started, and it would be a big celebration on a Saturday or Sunday, where they would put on presentations, and you get to see all the new stuff that's coming out. It was almost like Toy Fair, but it was for the comic book world. And I used to see Todd McFarlane there every year, and I always had great interactions with him. But Heroes World, it went belly up years ago, and I haven't seen the man in probably like 15 years. But I talked to him for a brief moment at his booth, and I came up to him. I said, Mr. McFarlane, I don't know if you remember me or not. I said, but back at the old Heroes World distribution days, I said, we used to see each other every year. And he kind of looked at me, and he kind of like cocked his head to the side. He's like, did you used to have really long hair? And at the time, I had hair down to like here, down to almost my belly. And I'm like, yeah. And I handed him my business card. He's like, oh, damn, because I haven't seen you in like 15 years. So he remembered me, which was kind of cool. I got a picture with him, too. But that was kind of fun.
Going through that now to try to see if I can find that real quick, but I'm coming up empty so far, but I remembered seeing you at that pic. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so it was kind of cool. I hadn't seen him in so many years, and the fact that he actually remembered me, because I mean, we do interact on Facebook a little bit. It wasn't face to face though. It was just like every year he sends me a birthday greeting, and every now and again I'll see something from him on Facebook. But it was cool to actually see him in person again. The fact that he remembered me was even better. And there was a lot of cool stuff there. I get to see all the stuff from NECA, because like I said, I like the Pacific Rim figures. And the Alien figures, even though they're not my scale, they're fantastic looking. Got to see the next waves of those coming out. There should be pictures in the file.
Yeah, we'll definitely link all those galleries, folks. In the show.
I got to tell you, though, environmentally wise, though, it was the worst trip I have ever had. It was so cold. I'm a big guy. Right? I stand 6 foot tall. I weigh about 240-something pounds. I got hit with a gust of wind as I was leaving the ferry, walking across the street to the Javits Center. Almost took me off my feet. All right, and like I said, I'm a big guy. I can imagine somebody lighter than me probably got hit with that. They'd be down the block. It was freezing. I wear this long duster. It's a long ankle-length black coat, It's made of oilcloth. It weighs like 12 pounds. I had to put the liner inside it. I have never, ever worn the liner, and I've had this coat for like 4 years. It's an inch thick, faux wool. I had that on, and I was still cold. It was Manhattan that weekend was like the ice planet of Hoth. It was terrible. I was looking for a fat guy to cut open and crawl inside to stay warm. Oh, it was horrendous. But I braved the elements, and I still got all our for us.
Yeah, you did. You did good. Looking for a fat guy to cut open and crawl. That's good. That's good stuff, Dan.
We had subarctic temperatures that weekend. The wind chills were like -20. It was insane, and it was that weekend while I was in the city.
All right. Well, thanks for going. Thanks for reporting on it for us, and I look forward to seeing what we get you into next.
Up next, we've got. I'm doing a small convention on the 22nd, I believe it is. The
cool.
newest New Jersey Collectors Convention.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna go there. It's a little thing. I'll take some photos. I'll see who's gonna be. I think Boss Fight Studio is gonna be there. They're the ones that had that really successful Vitruvian Hacks action figure Kickstarter.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm friends with those guys. They're really cool. I think they're gonna be there, and I'll get pictures of their stuff. I'll see if I can get a little like mini interview with them if I can.
Cool.
And there might be some other people, like the Glyos people are there sometimes too. The ones that do the Power Lords and the Glyos, all those compatible figures that pop apart.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're usually they're located. They're fairly local. They're in either Jersey or Philadelphia, so they're always there.
All right.
But I'll get some pictures. Yeah.
All right.
So that's my next mission.
I want to switch gears on you. I want to start a new section here on Custom Action Figure News, and I'm kind of hogging it this time, but we'll definitely let Dan give his own contributions here real soon. But I want to focus on highlighting some really cool custom action figures, projects, things along those lines, and I'd like to start with this one. Have you seen this one, Dan?
That is really nice. I saw that the other day. I think what really sells it more than anything, though, is aside from all the great sculpting and the paint, I think the pose is fantastic.
Isn't it great?
It just looks like it's so casual. He's just kind of leaning back on the bike, cradling his rifle. Yeah,
this is a original work by Ron Hembling, a.k.a. Hemble Creations, and just this is a 6-inch custom and custom base, and just from the weathering, but I'm with Dan. That calm, relaxed pose, holding that sniper rifle. Let's see if I can get you a back image of the thing real quick here.
The best thing about it, I mean, it's a science fiction piece, but you could easily see if that picture was done in black and white, it would look like one of those great World War II images of, the advanced scout leaning back on his motorcycle right before he drives off over the enemy lines to search for targets. It's just such a great piece. It looks like something out of the real world, even though it's something from a fantasy world. He just did a great job on it.
That's like, can you see the back there now? I mean, look how cool that is as a hose going to the...
Yeah, I can't see it on my end. It's not showing up on my screen. But I saw it. I saw the pictures though.
Let me get the screen share back up again. About now, you got it now.
There we go. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Neat. Just cool stuff. All right, another neat little project, and let me get it on the screen. Here is a fellow by the name of Ben Alias, who had a son who wanted some Star Wars action figures, and then kind of like us, he goes in and looks at the price of action figures nowadays, and he said, holy cow. So what he decides to do is start making some Star Wars action figures and vehicles out of just wood. And he kind of created I think this is Chewy from Yak Face coined this term, and I just loved it because I was like, yeah, that's it. It's kind of like Minecraft meets Star Wars. And just look at some of this.
That's what I thought when the first photos came up. I thought it was Minecraft.
So I mean, I've been
I thought it was Minecraft.
Really been enjoying this stuff, and this is his Imperial Walker, and of course it strikes no one as a big surprise that I'd probably focus on that one. But these are just made out of wood, glued together, and just even some custom movable pieces. There's the inside cannon and just really neat stuff. And there's the AT-AT drivers that he made to go in. He just posted those today. But just really neat work. And just trying to find a picture here of him with his son, but playing. He's got a couple threads, but just really cool stuff. Another thing I wanted to do, and I'm sorry I'm starting to rush here, but I know we've definitely been way over an hour, and this is just some visual graphic fiction, just magic by Hangar Bay 94, our own graphic artist guru here at Imperial Shipyards, and he's got a new chapter out of his graphic fiction based on the old PC video game. Remember that old PC video game, Dan?
Oh yes, yeah, I played it many years ago.
Yeah. And he's created an entire, I don't know, this is chapter 26. He's created just so many different, and I'm not going to give it all away because you ought to come in and see it. I'll post it in the show notes too, but I mean, just look at that. I mean, I don't know how Marvel or Dark Horse or someone doesn't pick this guy up or Lucasfilm and give this guy some type of, but just beautiful stuff. So
Yeah, it's very
check him.
professional looking. It is.
Oh, I mean, just gorgeous stuff, and he's been doing it for years. He's even done videos, and he's definitely the guy that's made Imperial Shipyards look so good graphically. So definitely check him out. And the last, custom thing I'd love to, another graphic fiction artist, his name is Kulon, that's how he goes by, but he's got this, Dan was talking about how the entire expanded universe is going away, but it hasn't gone away at Imperial Shipyards by a long shot, folks, and one of the great artists that's keeping the Clone Wars arc alive is Kulon, and he's got this great EU story where the Clone Wars is continued, and there's a new bad guy, Lord Tok, and once again, just bunches of chapters. There's Mace getting into it with guess who? There's Imbo. So just cool stuff, and you definitely want to check it out too. And I don't want to scroll too far because come in and read it. Start at the first chapter and just enjoy yourself. And I'd definitely like to thank both Hangar Bay 94 and Kulon for sharing their work. Just really cool stuff. So thank you, folks. I like it. I like all that. Customizing takes so many different forms. It's action figures, painting. It can be wood. It can be plastic, and it can be images and story. Just neat stuff.
Yeah, it does take many forms. I try to, with every custom that I create, there's always a backstory that goes with it, and usually they're pretty lengthy. I think most people don't read them, but I enjoy doing them.
Oh, I read them. I enjoy them too. Yeah, just cool stuff. And well, Dan, I mean, I guess it's time to end this thing on what's on the pegs. Have you picked anything up? I know you're seeing some stuff. What's come home?
The only thing I picked up recently, I got, as I mentioned before, the Schleich Castles.
Mm-hmm.
They put out this toy called the Knight's Castle. It's been reissued a number of times over the years in several different colors. It's been tan, it's been black. It's the current version is gray, and they retail for $99.99. They're quite large. They're expensive. As I said, it's all pretty pricey. But Toys R Us is making room to get rid of those to make room for the new Battle Arena that's showing up. So at the Toys R Us I went to in Totowa, I found two of them sitting on the floor with a sign that said $29.99. So I picked it up. I walked to the scanner. I scanned it. Sure enough, $29.99, and both of them came home with me.
All right. Good for
and
you.
The only other thing I picked up recently at all was actually a gift. As you know, I'm a huge Pacific Rim fan. And the only piece I was missing, I only collect the kaiju, though, because they're based on artwork by Wayne Barlow, who's one of my favorite fantasy and science fiction artists. He was one of the major designers for the movie. The only thing I was missing was the 18-inch version of the Knifehead kaiju. And I've been wanting it for a long time. It was like $180. I found it on discount for $149.99 at FYE. And I wanted it. I didn't have the money for it. And my wife's like, you know what? I'm going to get it for you. And she bought me the Knifehead kaiju, so it came home with me.
Now
So
that's a wife.
yeah, my wife, I love the fact she's very supportive of my hobby. Most wives would be like, "Oh, what are you still doing buying toys? What are you wasting all your time in your man cave or whatever?" My
Mm.
wife loves the fact that I create all these things. I have this, such a vivid imagination. She loves the fact that I'm not some beer swilling, football watching guy just sitting on the couch all day, and the fact that I actually use my creativity and express myself. And she loves the fact that I don't waste money on the toys. Like, the only time I buy stuff is that the bills have to be paid, the rent has to be paid, gas in all the cars, everything like that,
Hmm.
before I even put 1 cent toward anything in my hobby. And she's supportive of it. If she's out and she sees something that she knows I'm looking for, or she thinks I could even use for a custom, she'll pick it up and bring it home for me. So, she's a great wife. I love you, honey. You're the best.
All right, that's cool. Well, as far as I go, like I said, I haven't been. I did just get in. For me, it's not what's on the pegs; it's what's in the mailbox, Dan. So maybe we need to change the title for that particular section. But like I said, Hasbro, and I think they're still having this sale. If you input the code Family 2015, they were giving you 20% off and free shipping. So, I got the Rebels ATDP for 21 bucks. Shipped well. I just opened it up a couple days ago. I got the latest, uh, uh, I guess you'd call it Rebel Saga Legend Wave with the ATDP driver and the new AT-AT driver. They're 5 POA, and I can't say I'm superly excited about that, but the figures themselves, the sculpt worked on them is just nice, and it's just like, oh, I just wish you moved in a couple more different places. But wow, I mean, the sculpt worked on them is pretty nice. And like I said, I'm still, I'm looking for that Target ATDP pack. I haven't seen it yet, but
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet either.
yeah, I think it's coming. But other than that, got my 6-inch orders in, and I kind of got irritated that for the 6-inch Wave 9, uh, I don't know what's going on. Hasbro, whatever they do, doesn't surprise me. But Hasbro, it's not been the e-tailers, but Hasbro themselves has pushed that particular wave back till May 3rd. So, all of us who already pre-ordered that stuff, I'm not sure if the various places will keep those orders, or if we'll have to wait till May 3rd and then order again. But I guess that wave's been pushed back. But I've never ever seen them say, okay, we put this up for pre-order. Well, okay, take it off. Uh, but so that was interesting. But like I said, for me, it's pretty much what's in your mailbox, and a couple things here or there. Nothing really crazy. Better than nothing, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff in the mail recently too. I've been doing a lot of trades. As you know, I'm a huge trader online. I
Mm-hmm.
use it. I use it to get rid of parts that I don't need that come with figures I buy to get parts I do need without having to buy the figure to get them. And I've been getting packages all week long. So I got a bunch of stuff that's going to be used for projects that are sitting on my work in progress table right now. So you're going to see some new customs from me in the next couple weeks. I still have
Cool.
to post the statues I made. They still have not been posted, but they'll be up soon.
I'm sorry, my wife was just off camera and was trying to sign language me. Uh, Sorry, Dan.
That's all right. Like I said, I still have to post my statues. They remember I showed you on private messages. You got to see them. They're
Mm.
going to be posted soon. I'm working on the stories that go with them, so they'll be up hopefully in the next couple weeks. Maybe not this weekend coming, but probably the following weekend they'll be up.
All right.
And I'm working on just on Sunday, just sitting around waiting for The Walking Dead to start. I built a horde of zombies, which still have to be painted.
All right.
Yeah.
Walking Dead premiere.
Yep.
Cool stuff. Well, Dan, we did it.
Yes, we did.
Episode 77 of Custom Action Figure News is in the books. I want to thank you for tagging along, and hopefully I didn't drag you in places you didn't want to go. I'm pretty good for that, but
Nah, it was all good. It was all good. I had a good time.
all right. And look for me and Dan to, be with you again real soon. We're going to definitely try to do this at least once a month, and bring you the latest in customizing and anything that deals with fodder or technique or roundtables, and we're definitely trying to get into more lines than just Star Wars. So if you have something you'd like to see, give us a message on the YouTube channel. You can contact me, Tamer at imperialshipyards.net. Dan, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Well, you can get me at the Spectre at imperialshipyards.net, or you could find me on Facebook. I'm Dan Kosa. It's Kosa. I'm probably the only Dan Kosa on there, but you can find me on there. It can be found at joecustoms.com as well as imperialshipyards.net. And I'm on Twitter. I am at the Spectre DK. That's at the Spectre DK on Twitter, and you can follow me there for all the show news and custom action figures. I also mirror a lot of the stuff on the Imperial Shipyards Twitter, which is it at the Shipyards or is it
at the Shipyards?
At the Shipyards,
that's it.
yes.
I think so.
So yeah, a lot of all the show stuff will be mirrored on there. But if you want to see my customs, that's on my own personal one. So that's probably the best ways to get in touch with me.
Cool deal. All right. Well, from Tamer
And the Spectre.
All right. We'll see you again real soon. May the Force be with you.
Good night.